Well, hello there. Greetings, people of the internet. Welcome to another video, and today we are talking about two of my favorite things, Steven Universe and Dungeons and Dragons. If you can't already tell, I am in a very amethyst mood. I got the purple hair, the purple lips, the purple actual Steven Universe sweater, which you can't tell because the stars are all the way down here. I digress. It's still there, I still tried, and we are here to talk about how to build Steven Universe characters in Dungeons and Dragons.
I love it so much!
Before we begin, I do want to say I'm sticking mainly to the 5e edition of Dungeons and Dragons because that's what I am most familiar with. There are probably some things in the previous versions that you could update, make into a 5e version so they are playable now, and maybe get a little bit better of a character, but as I'm not as familiar with those additions, we're kind of sticking to what I know. That being said, because we are getting into more of the gems, we are getting into a little bit more of a homebrew kind of thing, that if you want to actually play these characters, you need to talk to your DM about some of the little tweaks to make sure you can do the basic things that this character can do. Yes, build all the things. In my last video, I covered the crystal gems as well as Greg and Connie. We are going to move on to some of the extended cast. I will have a list of all the gems that we're covering today in the description box below, as well as a link to the previous Steven Universe video that I did in this same manner in the title card, in the end screen, in the description box, and all the places so that you can find it at your leisure. And if you don't think I tried really hard to make sure all of this was as good as I can make it, look at the notes. All of the notes and all of the notes that are on my phone. The first gem we're going to cover today is pretty much the entire reason I wanted to make a second video about building Steven Universe characters in D&D, because I thought of her and I knew exactly what she was going to be. We're going to start with Peridot. So what I made Peridot was an artificer. An artificer is a kind of magic user that doesn't have any magic themselves, but uses all the technology and different things that they can build to make themselves stronger. If you look at Peridot through the seasons that we've seen, she started with her limb enhancers. She's the one who does all of the gem tech. She's the one who built that robot when she fought Pearl. She builds things. When she lived in the barn with Lapis, she was building all sorts of things, even though they became her, meat morph. She was still doing the building. As an artificer, she can do that same kind of mechanic. She can build things to make herself stronger. She could build her limb enhancers. It would just depend on how you work out the stats for them. I would definitely kind of look at some of the other magical items, see how their wear time is, see how often you can use them the way you want to use them. I will leave a link in the description box to the homebrew idea of an artificer that I found when I was researching. In that, it does talk about intense rivalries. There's not a lot of high-tech inclined people in the D&D setting, so they would definitely be in rivalry with each other. They would be in competition with each other. Peridot with Pearl, you would get that kind of rivalry, and that was one of the traits that was listed in this edition of Artificer. It starts at a very low level, being able to use different magical items that you can craft, so I would definitely think that the first thing you would craft as Peridot would be limb enhancers, whether it be the ones that make her taller or her little phalanges that she used to control all the other technologies. Pretty much an artificer is the best thing you can do for Peridot. If you wanted to move on and do some of the other stuff Peridot can do later on, which was, move metal objects, you would have to kind of find a feat or take a subclass later on to let you do some kind of maneuverable magic. It's a little hard unless you want to talk to your DM about, making up a feat of once per day, twice per day, you can lift a metal object with your mind and move it X amount of feet. In this artificer kind of subclass that I found, there was a mechanist, whatever you want to call it, subclass, and I would definitely choose that for Peridot because it's all about the building. She doesn't have a lot of superpower, so what she needs to do is make her superpower. She's intelligent, she knows how to do all the techie things. That's her strength. The other thing that I would definitely do is there is a feat called Quick Smithing. It will definitely help you move up your timetable on anything that you're making, as well as making sure you can build even more things and know more stuff very early on. So the next time that you level her up, I would definitely take that feat instead of upping one of your stats for just that one turn. From there, we move on to her barn mate, Lapis. Lapis is a little special case because she's very specifically water related. And so to do that, we kind of have to take a couple different things from different places to make her the gem that she is. I would definitely start with the Ganassi base. And again, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I read this everywhere, I don't say it. So I would start with the Ganassi base, the Water Ganassi. And with that, you get the Shape Water cantrip right off the bat. You can do her very basic level stuff right away. From there, I would choose the class for Druid, and you would choose to be a Druid of the Coast. That way you get, again, more water-related things. You are getting a lot of things that kind of go along with Lapis's themes. At second level, you get Mirror Image, so you can start creating those little water Lapises and water copies that she does very early on. Eventually, you get Water Breathing, Water Walking, Control Water, all the things that would just make Lapis exactly the way she is in the show. And then later on, you do get the higher level spells of things like Scrying, which, as dark as it is to think of Mirror Lapis, you know, she could see all the things. So it's very similar idea with Scrying, just doing it to other people rather than her being the actual object of Scrying. The other thing is if you would talk to your DM about wings. Now, a big part of Lapis is her wings. Now, in D&D, wings come with a little bit of a cost. It's a very small timetable you're ever allowed to use your wings, even if you're a tiefling who has them naturally. There is a feat called Dragon Wings, but it's only for dragon-born characters, so a Ganassi would not necessarily get one. But I would talk to your DM about kind of modifying that feat to be, you know, water wings, and have you pretty much use the same rules for those dragon wings as your water wings. They may want to give you a bit more restrictions so you're not too powerful right away, but overall that will give you that feel of Lapis, and it's not that big of a tweak of her character. You're just really making yourself water based, so if you fight anything that's electrical, you are just going to be electrocuted to death. Think about that before you play a Lapis, because if you're getting all of these kind of special powers, special bonuses, your DM's going to take it out on you somehow, and I'm pretty sure you'll fight like a Pikachu, or you know, the D&D equivalent of a Pikachu. And one of the traits of the Water Ganassi is that they take a lot of pride in their independence. And if you've watched the recent episodes of Steven Universe, spoiler alert, Lapis really doesn't like being roped in with other people because she just wants to escape everybody who ever used her, tried to use her, anything like that. So again, the trait really fits. Also, that way you get the coloring of Lapis. A lot of the other ones, it's a lot harder to get their specific gem coloring. You can tell your DM that that's the color that you are, but it does kind of lend itself more to that nature if you pick the base race that is that. I didn't do that for Peridot or a lot of the other gems, because if you wanted a character who's that color and you took a base race that is that color, so like an Earth Ganassi for Peridot, she doesn't have anything to do with Earth powers, so it didn't make any sense. I would just kind of, with Peridot, probably pick a halfling or a gnome just because of the height difference. So yeah, I should have mentioned that in the Peridot section, but hey, I mentioned it now. And with Lapis leads us to Jasper. That took a turn. I wanted to include Jasper because I do find her a very interesting character, and she actually has a very easy build in D&D. If you haven't already guessed, I made Jasper into a barbarian. Hey! Yes, the obvious choice. Jasper, because of her large nature, you could make like a half orc or something like that. It doesn't really need to be, but you can definitely do that just to give her that stature, that durability that comes with that kind of race. Being a berserker gives her rage, which Jasper has a lot of rage built up that she needs to release, so giving her that would give you a very, very decent kind of thing. And by being a berserker, she can do even more rage. She can go into a frenzy rage, which pretty much means that she can do another attack very early on, I think level 3. You're building a tank here, because Jasper is a freaking tank. I would definitely also minor as a fighter just to get some of the other class features that would help with the fact that she's very like hand-to-hand, head-to-head kind of combat, as well as I would give her the feat of durability. She goes and goes and goes and goes. It takes a lot to bring her down. Even then, she doesn't ever really stop, so the durability feat will kind of give you that extra boost of HP and all of that to keep going. And pretty much with Barbarian, Jasper just keeps getting attacks. She keeps getting to fight and fight and fight, which is what Jasper at least believes she was meant to do. 2 more gems to go, and they come as a duo. We're going to talk about Ruby and Sapphire. I love them so much. They're so cute. We're gonna start off with Ruby. Ruby, you also want to start off as a gnome or a halfling. That can actually pretty much be said for both Ruby and Sapphire because they are the tiny gems. Tiny, tiny, tiny gems. Ruby, I made into a fighter. Because, I mean, have you seen the rubies? They're kind of fighters. I would choose the defense option when you start choosing what the special ability for your fighter is, just because Ruby, at least the Ruby that we know and love, is all about defending, well, mostly Sapphire, but, you know, also Steven and the rest when it comes to that. The rubies are all defensive position gems. They are there to defend the hierarchy, so defense makes a lot of sense. So with Ruby, I had a hard time choosing between being a champion or a knight. The champion fits with her kind of motifs. She gets to fight a bit more, she gets to do well with a lot of different kinds of attacks, which the rubies are very diverse in the way that they do things. I did like that with the knight, you can be proficient with mounted battle tactics. Just because if you have a group of you playing rubies on a quest and you do that whole get up into the big ruby, I would count that as a mounted battle thing and you get advantage and all these other kinds of things. If you're gonna play as a group of rubies, I would suggest you all be knights. Get the advantage when you are doing a mounted battle, because if you climb on top of each other like the rubies do, you don't get, you know, penalized for it. The thing that I would do is there is a trait of the druids when you use B shape and turn into a wolf or any kind of thing that has a pack, which is called pack tactics. Again, if you're playing with a lot of rubies, I think it would be good to talk to your DM about the fact that, you know, rubies are made to work together in this kind of defensive unit. So I would see if you could make a sort of pack tactics feat where you would get the same advantage, but only if a bunch of rubies, other rubies, were around you. I feel like if you don't, you're missing something essential to the character of Ruby, at least the rubies from Homeworld. The Ruby that we know and love also would get that advantage, even if she's not really part of the pack anymore. I do think that that is a really key element to add in, and I would make sure your DM understands that. Though if you're actually building these characters in D&D, I'm gonna hope that your DM has some idea of what Steven Universe is. If not, show them this video and I will tell them that if they don't do this, they are an idiot and you are just being a not fun person for your people to play with. Yes, I'm talking to you, the one DM that got shown this video because your players really, really want to play Ruby. Let them play Ruby. And then we move to Sapphire. Now Sapphire has the trouble of being a psychic, and psychics are kind of hard to come by in D&D. They don't function the same way unless they're an NPC that can do whatever the hell the DM wants them to do. So for Sapphire, I made her a mystic, which is a character in D&D that can use the psionic forces. And the psionic forces are as close as we get to psychics in this kind of build. From there, I put her in the Order of the Awakened because it gets the closest to future vision in D&D. With the Order of the Awakened, you get a lot of mind control powers, you get a lot of, you know, reading minds, all that kind of stuff, which is, again, not necessarily what Sapphire does, but eventually you do get to, you know, clairvoyancy. And one of the disciplines that you can get from being this Order of the Awakened mystic is you can get a third eye. Sapphire only has one, but when she and Ruby fuse into Garnet, does give them a third eye, which is technically our Sapphire eye. I thought that fit. And so that third eye doesn't really give you precognition, but it gives you a lot of other kinds of advantages that you can use, all sorts of things that do, you know, pretty good stuff. It just doesn't give you the exact thing, but the aesthetic is there. And eventually, with just the way that the Order of the Awakened goes, you can start reading the imprints left on objects, which will give you an idea of where they've been, what they've seen, and that kind of goes along with the whole future vision thing. It's just a past vision thing. It's close. I would definitely talk to your DM about making a sort of clairvoyancy precognition feat that you can use once or twice per day, just so that you can't just be like, oh, we're gonna go on this adventure, let me try to see what happens. No, but as you can see, Sapphire doesn't get that really either, and she can't always interpret what she sees, and she sees many, many futures. So I would work with your DM to see how to build that. Clairvoyancy kind of works if you can do that spell once or twice per day, maybe more so as you get higher level. Depends on how you want to work it. The other option is there is a feat in the Unearthed Arcana called Dragon Marks, and with that you can take the Dragon Mark of the closest you're gonna get is like finding, and with that you eventually get locate object and clairvoyancy, and then in the earlier stages you get identify and mage hand. And now that's not gonna give you a lot for that, but it is a already built-in rule system that you can use to do something similar. I do still recommend kind of making up a feat for that character to use once or twice per day. And there you have it, folks. We have done another edition of building Steven Universe characters in D&D. Let me know how you would build them. Let me know if there's things that you think would make it easier, things that I missed, or things that, you know, I just have yet to hear of. Other than that, I would leave in the comments below other gems you would like me to build, or let me know things from other fandoms that you would like me to build. I also made a Hamilton version of this, and I made a Game of Thrones version of this. Challenge me. Give me something hard to do. I'm up to it. Until next time, I will bid you adieu, and I will hope to see you there. Bye! I'll turn to my barbarian text in my book right here, you see, because I like to have all my research in one place.